Hi, everybody. This is day 1016. 1016 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And he didn't just vanish, something happened, and there's always a trail. There's always a trail, and you just have to find it. Um, because, we've been made the chief investigators of our son's murder, and don't doubt it. Absolutely, he was murdered. There's a trail, and that trail is going to lead to finding his remains. That is our goal, anyway, is to um, get our son's remains. And that's why the hashtag that I'm putting out right now is hashtag give us Richard's remains. So we were following this trail, and sometimes it has all these different chutes, and you get sidetracked, and you have to get back on the right trail. It's kind of like this whole Sunday school class that I've been leading on Pilgrim's Progress, where he gets off, but the hand of God always puts him right back on there. And we have uncovered these the death certificate of Richard, also these autopsies of Richard, and these leaks that have come to us in this large stack of paper that I'm still going through, along with the CID and the FBI numbers of Leilani Hart's fortified complaint by we're told in these leaks. See, these are all leaks, and we can't get definitive answers, or answers that you would think that they would be calling. You would think that they would absolutely want to visit, want to come to our door and give us explanations for what has gone on here, when we have CID and FBI case numbers of Leilani Hart saying that there was real evil going on there, and that Richard was connected to this real evil. And that evil is a child of 7 years old being raped by multiple members of the Hart family. And she also, this is Leilani Hart now, also stated in her CID, and it's connecting us because what is Richard backing up from her, you see? Because with that illegal exposure from Tavita Nusa of Richard, it put a target on Richard's back, and put him right in the middle of this very vicious family feud, that also is part of the unit, and we believe that it includes First Sergeant Jay Paulin. We believe it includes other people that that should talk to us, right? Because we have these autopsy reports now, and I think tomorrow I will, well, tomorrow's Sunday, post some of the extra information, because the autopsies report show that there was a concerted effort to hide or destroy Richard's remains, by dismemberment and by other means, that they were trying to destroy Richard's remains so that they would not be able to be identified, and they would not be able to be found, but mainly not to be able to be identified. And this is really interesting information, because that's hard to do and it's also illegal to do. So just another crime on top of all these other crimes, you see. And that's why it's gotten our attention. And the shocking thing about this is that the CID, Quantico, even though we do appreciate any kind of investigation that they do, since we have been left to be the investigators, and we don't have the big staffs, we don't have the endless pocketbooks, we don't have the connections with the AUSAs. Matter of fact, the AUSAs, the DA there, Bill Hicks, Gregory McDonald, the attorney for violent crimes for the border, and this absolutely has to do with the border, since remains were found in Mexico, some remains, partial fragmented remains, and also they were messed with because they wanted to try to prevent anyone from identifying them. But then Jaime Esparza, he's the AG, he's the federal attorney, and then there's others involved here. They don't contact us, so we do appreciate any kind of investigation, any kind of help that we do get from, right now, the CID Quantico, which is moving forward. It's moving forward, and I'm not at liberty to say how that's going to happen, but I will tell you this, that it is really concerning that you have a CID Quantico coming to Fort Bliss, and we have reports that in the last 3 days there were 2 suicides in the barracks. 2 suicides in the barracks. Now, that's not being covered by the media, and I don't know why that's not being covered by the media. So I'm asking anyone that has information on those 2 suicides in the barracks. The rate of suicides has gone way up because when you are getting retaliated, when you are being bullied, when you are being sexually assaulted, sexually harassed, coerced into doggy sex cults, coerced into participating in the Vanity Fair of the narcotics marketplace right there in the barracks, when you are being coerced and manipulated, groomed into the doggy sex cult, or sexually assaulted into it, when you are formed and pressured into participating into the grog alcohol thing, and the racketeering, and the criminal syndicate, of course the suicides are going up. Of course the suicides are going to go up. And don't forget that the DOD committed crimes against humanity during the whole COVID thing. They absolutely committed crimes against humanity. They're the ones that made it all happen. And now I've got even news in my own neighborhood about how the actions of the DOD affect the regular citizen, so much so that they could be losing their jobs in that. It is really crimes against humanity what has happened, and Richard found himself in the middle of it, and it got even worse because he found himself in the middle of a family that was steeped in child abuse, child sex abuse, and incest. I'm going to get kicked off. Um, up to no good. Up to no good. First, this is what Leilani Hart said in her CID and FBI complaint, that First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, in his uniform, in his position as a military soldier, commissioned soldier, was up to no good with his brother. Was up to no good. And that's illegal. It's illegal, and we have no arrests. If Leilani Hart, and was that what Richard was reporting? But we also have this pornography that, Richard turned in sex tapes. So was it this pornography that they were filming? Because she says there was child porn, and any pornography supports child sex trafficking. I hope everyone understands that. And, learning about who's girlfriend, who's girlfriend in Delta Battery 140. Well, I should say in 32nd AdCom. Who's girlfriend in 32nd AdCom is very revealing. Up to no good, and any kind of support for pornography is a support for child sex trafficking. And that's been made very clear. And so getting back to suspecting Jay Paulin up to no good in this whole thing, and he absolutely showed his colors that he's up to no good. Now we know that he has a friend in the CID with Tavita Noosa, Ron Steig, special agent CID right there at Fort Bliss. And, it's when you're up to no good, it's always nice to have a friend in law enforcement, especially, and to be in uniform. Because when you're in uniform and when you have people in law enforcement, maybe you can get out of trouble a little quicker, or cover up things a little better. And we'll see. We'll see. But what I'm concerned about is the breach there. You have a CID special agent being friends with the very unit that's trying to investigate the murdered soldier. And that is a conflict of interest. And then you have Leilani Hart, whose son is First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, who we maintain was in Delta Battery 143. And that's very, very important to know. And I wish they would deny it, but they haven't denied it. Now, Dallas Hart has denied it, of course, but where are the generals to write us a letter and say, oh, no, he was in 243? No, we maintain that he was in 143. We also are connecting the dots between Jay Paulin and James Hart, and how, Dallas Hart went green to gold. The military, I believe, paid for his college there, and he went to basic, and then he went in right away as a commissioned officer and wound up there in Delta Battery 143, which was very cozy for him because he knew everyone. It wasn't so cozy for Richard. And, it just makes you wonder how the CID in Quantico can be unpartial in this investigating themselves, because you have Leilani Hart having a conflict of interest with Tavita Noosa, who we've been told by many people, and James Hart, that it's absolutely possible they're having an affair. We've been told they were having a sexual affair. That seems to be the norm through this whole thing, are these affairs. And, so that is a conflict of interest, because if Tavita Nusa was assigned, like we're told in our leaks, was assigned to Richard's whistleblowing case, and he's doing rolls in the hay with Leilani Hart, and Richard is reporting on things of what's going on in that office there, where he's guidon bearer. That has to come in, and he doesn't find the guidon, and I don't know. Because what we have also been told is that he was reporting on several different things. And that's why he reported to the CID, and that's why he reported to Child Protective Services. And that the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. And the other thing that we have in these leaks that I have suspected from early on is that there was a physical confrontation, altercation with somebody in Richard's unit and Richard, and it had to do with a knife. And that's why I believe Richard ended up in the hospital at the beginning of March. Now, so that's interesting that that's popping up, because you see there's always a trail. And I think you have to be, if I was going to talk about moms, mothers of missing, murdered, and maligned soldiers, I would say to the moms, I would say to the families, the very first thing you need to do is pray. And the second thing you need to do is to get your mind focused and devise a plan on how you can record everything, be it in journals, be it recording devices wherever you're allowed, wherever you ask to record, be it screenshots, be it videos, whatever, live streams. This is why daily, and I used to be doing this twice a day, why daily live streams are so important. They're a journal, a day-to-day journal of this whole journey to find Richard. And in that, I, of course, do screenshots. Of course, I keep journals and all the letters, and Rob does. Rob keeps great journals and everything like that. And we've recorded where we were allowed to, and we have lots of things on records, lots of things on record that we can go back to, we can reread. Thank God we did that with Anthony Swafford, because at the very beginning, I did not understand what guard mount was, and weeks went by, months went by, and we went back and looked at what he was trying to say, and here we found out, well, who is this Anthony Swafford that he is saying that groundless smear campaign is being conducted by the guard mount? What's a guard mount? Oh my gosh, that's the change of shift senior leader speaking to all the MPs there at Fort Bliss at the change of shift. That's where they give awards. That's where they give promotions. That's where they give their updates on the cases that they are that are up to date, the current events. And right now it's going to be suicides, right? That's their current events right now, is the suicides. So much mental strain, pressure, that people are being trained to suicide. As Elder Fernandez's mother said, she deserves a PhD. She said it absolutely properly. They're training to suicide because suicides are just unacceptable. The rates are unacceptable, and they've been going up. For 2020, there were um, 8 suicides there at Fort Bliss, 8 suicides in 2020, and they're just uh, the increase is incredible. So you have one a month. Well, in 2019 it was 11, so almost one a month um, for suicides. Can you believe it? That's just Rob in his career. He never heard of it. And now, just at Fort Bliss, we have this suicide um, major attack going on because of the mental manipulation, the hypnosis, um, the retaliation, just messing with people's hearts, messing with people's minds, instead of defending, using the military for what it's meant to be, and that is to defend, have a military, an army, a fighting force, a fighting ready force, to defend the Constitution, the land, and the people, right? That's why we have a military. And now we are very low in numbers, and very low in numbers, and they're escalating this war because, of course, the election's coming up, and of course they don't want to have debates. Can you imagine a debate with President Trump and Biden? I mean, they don't want to have that debate. So in here, this is, uh, and they want the puppet. They want the puppet. They want to control things. Who are they? Who are they? That's a good question. Who are they in El Paso? Who are the movers and the shakers? Who are they? And I would say three. Three. Who are they? The top three that are pulling the chains of Veronica Escobar, Vanity Fair Veronica Escobar, who can't look out away from her mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? She, is trying to make sure that the mirror is going to say, "Oh, you are Veronica. You're the one that's going to be the representative of this district." She's trying real hard for that, forgetting what her job is, and she's betrayed El Pasoans. She's betrayed her constituents there on Fort Bliss because she has oversight of Fort Bliss. So it is, who's pulling her chain and who's pulling Bill Hicks' chain not to offer us protection, because we have had threats. We have been in danger so many different times, and those are getting bigger, right? Because I'm telling you, we have honed in to trails that are getting closer and closer to Richard. Just that we've gotten these autopsy reports, okay? Just that we've gotten the information on those autopsy reports that are coming out, and that, they're using different things that they have to get from places, and did they get it from the military? This is the big thing. And there's all kinds of little trails that help substantiate or that will deny what we're learning. And that's where we're at. We are trying to substantiate or deny what we're learning. And I'm hoping that it'll be a denial, because it's absolutely wicked. Absolutely wicked. It's like some kind of cult, some kind of demon cult um, had some kind of witch trial and judged Richard to be sacrificed, to be chopped up, to be cut up, to be um, um, I mean, what are they doing? Are I have this eerie nightmare. Um, when I was in Korea a few years back, there was a movie called Abuji, which means like an older man, right? Abuji. I hope I'm saying it right. My daughter will correct me. But and what it was about is he was I believe he was law enforcement. I had to these it was all in Korean. I think he was law enforcement or yes, I believe, and he like a bodyguard. And what the case that he was on was selling body parts, and it was a nightmare. Absolutely a nightmare. I told my daughter, "What in the world?" Um, we have this movie about. It was so sad. Matter of fact, I don't even think I finished the movie. And when I see so many suicides, when I see what has happened on paper, when I'm reading what happened on paper to my son, I have these same emotions as I did with that movie of horror, absolute horror of this evil spirit, the evil spirit of like a Jack the Ripper crime for profit. So, because I'm just trying to think of what would Richard say so bad that someone would want to go to the trouble that we're reading that they went to dissect him, to um, chop him up, to divide him like a Jack the Ripper, and work so hard to hide his remains. It's a nightmare to think this through when you've had an experience like we had in Korea watching this movie, you know. And so you have to try to make sure that that doesn't influence your thinking. But I'm telling you, it is really hard. And when you see these suicides, and the parents are like, "What do you mean it's a suicide?" It's just it is really a nightmare. And so we need to get to the bottom of all of this, because what in the world did Richard see or know and report that would cause such a retaliation that was absolutely horrific in itself, and then escalate to a brutal murder, his brutal murder? And then we're calling this out, and we are left defenseless except for our own defense. And which leads me to something else that I really want to talk about, and that is access to information. You know, we talk about the Second Amendment a lot, the value of having a gun, the value of having firearms, the value of having ammunition to defend yourself. When I was in Florida, I was concealed carry. I got the concealed carry down there, and you know, it, and it's super beneficial because you see the elite group are very wealthy people, and they have bodyguards. And what do their bodyguards carry? They carry all sorts of weapons, right? All sorts of weapons. They're not empty handed. And so, if it's good enough for them, If they feel like they need that kind of protection, then it's good enough for us. We need that kind of protection. But people don't think about the access to information as being a weapon. This insider trading, the insider banking, the insider to the DOJ, the insider to the DOD, the insider to the Department of State, the insider information to the media, to the press. There is an access to information, to things that are behind a firewall. There's access to information. And when you have that ability to access information and to be able to use that information, it becomes a huge tool, but it becomes also a weapon. And to deny us access where very wealthy people would absolutely have access, I think is the same as the Second Amendment. Because this information, they're weapons, y'all. They are absolute tools. They are absolute weapons. And we need to have access to the information as the chief investigator. Why can't we get our FOIAs answered? They know what the FOIAs have in it, the CID, and they have a conflict of interest because they had 2 special agents in the CID office there at Fort Bliss that had access to information. They had access to information. They have access to information. And whoever was pulling their strings, or good friends, or more than that, a sexual partner, they had, because you have to remember that Leilani Hart had a El Paso Police Department's complaint put on her because she was bragging that she was running the Fort Bliss CID office. Okay? She was bragging, and somebody was horrified with that and put in a complaint to the El Paso Police Department. And so what is Leilani Hart saying? She's saying, I have access to information. I have access to intelligence. I have that kind of access, and it makes me strong. It makes me powerful. It gives me more than weapons. So, absolutely, I'm hearing my grandbaby in the background. I put him to bed. So that's why I had to pause there for a minute, make sure that he's okay. He is. So this access to intelligence, this access to weapons, the weapons of information is, I believe, more powerful than a gun, than drones, than atomic weapons, right? Or whatever. And for that to be in the hands, now there's been all this discussion of who is going to censor who is going to have access to the ability to get information. And why is it that those who want to do us harm, that want to take away our freedoms, that want to war against our Constitution, war against our freedom of religion, war against our freedom to protect ourselves with weapons, war against our freedom of speech. Why is it that they get access, or they want access well, they have access to information, and we don't? Why are they allowed to have these conflicts of interest over and over again, that we would never be allowed to have? Why do they have are these absolute breaches in ethics, breaches in morality, and get no consequences at all? Thank you. Thank you, God. That bell is right on. So that is really what I want to talk about today, because we're getting these letters back, and they just push from one agency to the other. But we have real concerns as little people about our loved ones being so misused that they will commit suicide, they will be raped, victims of rape, they will overdose because they've been put into these marketplaces of illegal drugs and retaliated against and bullied. And, it's just all of this grooming to spiral down into the abyss, right? Into this kind of culture. And then the agencies that we trust have betrayed us and are telling us, essentially, don't take vitamin C, and we're like, oh, really, don't take vitamin C. And this is an analogy. Okay, this is an analogy. We trust them, and they're telling us not to take vitamin C. They're giving us a story how that will harm our health, and some of us believe it. Some of us believe it, that we shouldn't take vitamin C. And, because we have been blocked from the information that if we don't have vitamin C, we rot. We actually rot. And I learned that lesson through doing homeschool with McGuffey's, why the British Navy became the rulers of the sea. And it was because they knew the secret of vitamin C. And why did that make them the rulers of the sea? And that's why they were called the limeys, right? The limeys, because they had lemons, and lemons had vitamin C, and they would take their gin and they would squeeze their lemons having more vitamin C than limes, but squeezing the lemons and the limes in their drink, and they wouldn't rot like other navies would with scurvy. And look up scurvy. Scurvy is just, you rot away. And so, but that had a domino effect, because if you could stay on your ship, if you were healthy and you had a lot of vitamin C that prevented the scurvy and other diseases, then you wouldn't have to dock so close to the land. And if you didn't have to dock so close to the land, then you wouldn't be eaten up by mosquitoes and get malaria. And so a lot of these navies, they would be dying of scurvy, they would be dying of malaria, they would be suffering. And here comes the British Navy, the limeys, drinking their lemonade fortified gin, and they could destroy other navies. As simple as that. So, what am I saying here? I hope that this analogy is it's things are not always what they seem. Things are not always what they seem. And they can tell us, well, they didn't tell us, did they? They didn't even tell us that Richard was missing. They didn't tell us. They didn't notify us, which is a huge irregularity. And they didn't tell us that there were conflicts of interest within that very small CID Fort Bliss office. Two conflicts of interest. Tavita Nusa and Ron Steeg. And Tavita Nusa being assigned to Richard, so we read. And so they want us to just count on the CID investigating the CID. And yet that's what's happening. And we'll see it's moving forward because of all, well, I'm not at liberty to say. But definitely you have the IG that we received a letter from the Office of Inspector General today, and they are concerned. They are concerned. They mentioned the CID number and the FBI number in their correspondence with us of Leilani Hart's report about Dallas Hart being up to no good, incestuous relationship with his brother, and a 7-year-old being raped in Leilani Hart's master bedroom by multiple members of the family. And the child pornography being for long periods of time there on their computer, and how, we've just been told that that was fortified with Richard's information. And that's why this is so important to figure out, and why we would like access, Freedom of Information access, Freedom of Information Act to the Child Protective Service complaint and to the CID, and to get Richard's file, to look at it. We've been made the chief investigator. They need to treat us like that and give us this information that they have access to, but they're denying us. And that way, the concern that the Department of the Inspector General has with this CID number and the FBI number of this complaint that Leilani Hart was concerned about and put in. And not only was she concerned, but she got it notarized on the 22nd of July, 2020. That notary we talked to, his hands were on that document. He acknowledged her signature. He notarized that document with the charges that are on there. And those aren't my words. That is in this document. And that's why the Inspector General is important here. And that's why, to show a connection, that would bring us a huge step forward to finding Richard's remains. And that's why we're being put into danger, because we're getting that close. We're being put into danger. And Bill Hicks, the DA there, who was appointed by Governor Abbott, who ignores our pleas. We haven't even heard from Governor Abbott. Does he not care about this incredible, sensitive, and important case of a soldier that the agencies are hiding his remains, his murdered remains, not just his murdered remains, but Jack the Ripper cut up murdered remains. It's like Gonzalez, does Representative Gonzalez, doesn't he care? He mentioned Vanessa Guillen. Well, this is another chopped up soldier. And we had the representative for the city, Representative Molinar, to talk about the homicide case of Richard Halliday. Absolutely. And why did Representative Tony Gonzalez want to pass the buck to Representative Molinar? That was odd. He was very uncomfortable, and he never denied, hey, this is not a homicide. Nobody ever denied that it's not a homicide. And you see, this is another real problem with our society today. We hear so much about suicides today. 2 in the last 3 days. 2 suicides in the last 3 days right there in the barracks of Fort Bliss. And, the media is not putting that out, but we hear, I don't know why, because what they have is they've trained us to be immune, to think this is normal, that every month we have suicides. It's going to get to every week, that it'll get to every day. And that we don't even get outraged at what's causing these suicides. That we don't put it together, that we have very terrible leadership if we have this much. We have a terrible leadership with a terrible foundation, terrible moral foundation, a terrible ideology, a foreign ideology, I call it, that is making the minds, the hearts and minds, and also the physical body then suffer under this ideology, this foreign ideology that's up to no good. And the fruit of it is these suicides, are these rapes, are these vicious Jack the Ripper murders. And what they're doing is, because of no consequences, that's part of their ideology, is to let the Jack the Rippers, let the rapists, let the sexual harassers, let the retaliators, let the power hungry wear our uniform. They let them wear our uniform. They let them walk our streets. And then they don't even vet the child care industry properly. And then get this. This is the icing on the cake. Because if they don't vet the child care, then of course they don't care about the children, and they're getting raped, and they're getting maligned, and they're getting mentally tortured and bullied and retaliated. But I want to talk about the icing on the cake here. So now we have a lack of recruits. We have suicides. We have high PTSD. We have all kinds of other illnesses because of crimes against humanity. Our numbers are very low. I don't know how low they are, but if they're around 70% of what we need in the military, then it's illegal. I think it's illegal then to go to war. And this is the icing on the cake. They're not letting people know that. They're not letting people know that we're dying of scurvy. And that's an analogy. We're like those ships that are not prepared, that are going to dock beside the land and get eaten up by mosquitoes. We're not even gonna, if we even make it there, because we don't have enough sailors, we don't have enough military, we don't have enough personnel, we don't have enough that are fit for duty. We're not army ready to make the ship go, to make the army proficient. And then our ships have all kinds of rotten wood, a rotten mast, dry rotting sails. You see? So not only are we not training with an ideology for vitamin C, and by the way, vitamin C, when you look at vitamin C, the crystal of it, it makes a cross. It makes a cross. And it makes, I I call it an Episcopal cross, an Anglican cross, because of the way it's shaped. But it's a beautiful cross, the crystal of vitamin C. And, so, not only do we're not fit physically, we're not fit mentally because we don't have this information, but we're also, our equipment is not ready. Our equipment is has been neglected, and the leaders don't care. They are like how my grandfather died. We are just, Hitler just took everyone. He didn't care if they were trained. He didn't care how old they were. He didn't care if their health problems. He didn't care anything. My grandfather's a cook. He just threw them at the Russian front. Didn't even care if they had jackets, which they didn't, or boots, and they're in this Russian winter. And of course, my grandfather didn't come home. And my mother had a 6-year-old brother. She had a sister that passed away also, and then she was the youngest, and she was only weeks old. And now my Oma was a German widow. Try being a German widow in Germany after World War II. You didn't get any benefits. It was a fallen state. Not only a fallen state, but she was from Pirmasens. Pirmasens was on the French border. It was bombed to smithereens. And you didn't drink the water. The water was rotten. That's why Germans didn't have really an age, a drinking age, because it was safer to drink beer, just not such a fortified beer. They'd make a low fortified beer, and children would drink it because it was safer than the rotten water. And I remember going and visiting my Oma when I was a girl, and I would want some Leitungswasser, which is just flat water, out of the tap. And people would look at me like I was absolutely crazy. You didn't drink Leitungswasser. You didn't drink water out of the faucet. That culture was still there. They didn't trust it. And, we're there now, right? We don't drink water out of our faucet anymore because we can't trust it. So, but really when your country has been bombed to smithereens, it's a little bit different case. But that, I hope that makes sense, what I'm saying, because the war drums are beating because the election is coming. The war drums are beating. And the election is a fight for power. It is a fight for power. It's always been a fight for power. So I hope that you are aware. I hope you have a stockpile of vitamin C as an analogy, that you're prepared with information, that you're prepared for your health, that you're prepared morally for your spiritual health, that you are prepared in your relationships, because this is the attack. This is why these suicides, this is my belief, okay? And and we have, can you imagine 2 suicides in 3 days at Fort Bliss and in the barracks? I mean, my husband's never heard of such a thing when he was in the military. It's just crazy. And you have to remember, my husband went in as an E3. He went in as an E3, uh, E4, E5, E6, E7. I believe he went to E7. Do I have it? I have it on there. And then he went to warrant officer school. And he was a warrant officer. That's when I met him. I pinned on CW3 on him. And then during the Gulf Wars, he was commissioned. All PAs in the Army were commissioned if you had a 4-year degree, which he had. And he was commissioned as a captain with time and grade, and made major very quickly. And then made lieutenant colonel and retired as a lieutenant colonel. And it took him 30 years. It wasn't like an overnight. So he has a lot of experience with the boots. And remember what Jay Paulin said, that my husband never wore the boots. And I put up some pictures and made videos and everything, because, I don't mind people saying things about me, but I don't know. I claws come out. I shouldn't say claws, but maybe, but I give an answer for my family, for my husband, for my children, and I fight for them. And I want Richard's remains. I think we have succeeded in breaking the smear campaigns. That just really was very awful, that they do that they smear their victims, their character. And so I think we've really dented that attack mode that they had with Fine Richard Halliday. And now we need to get to the truth. We need to get to the truth. And what do I believe? I absolutely believe that Richard didn't show up on the 24th of July because he had been murdered. I believe that the CID knows who murdered him. I believe they're playing hide and seek with our son's remains. And if that is the case, then wow. Who are they covering up for? What are they covering up for? And we are kind of getting a big picture, a big peek into what they're covering up for with this in my hand, CID and FBI case numbers for Leilani Hart's complaints that she had notarized about a child of 7 in the care, they had a child care business, y'all. And the military is so sloppy. They didn't even vet the workers there at the emergency intake center. They didn't vet their child care, home care facilities, and they just got really, really sloppy. And so how many children have been raped? How many children have been sexually assaulted? How many children have been harmed? So they're coming after our children. They're coming after our military volunteer sons and daughters. We see that with the suicide rate, with the all the other crime going on and the retaliation. And we also, just coming after our country with this upcoming plan that they want us to go to war. And we have volunteer sons and daughters that are hearing or even experiencing the preparation for war. They understand what it is because of the hours they have to work, the shifts they have to work. They understand why they're doing what they're doing, and they see their equipment, that their equipment is not prepared. They see the military as it is, and they know it's not prepared, and they that is not good for the mental stability either. The morale. Remember what my dad was saying, that it's all about esprit de corps. So I hope you share these videos. I really do. And if I get censored, we have our own site called McGuffey's Online Tutor, and that's not censored. So please go to McGuffey's Online Tutor. It's been very neglected the last 2 years, but it is a good site. So, and it is a place, it's our backup plan. You have to have a backup plan. It's our vitamin C too. It's our vitamin C. Here is something I wanted to share with you all. Oh, I don't know why I did that. I hope that hasn't been so loud for people. But here is a video, and I want to share it with you. Why, we've been put into danger so many times. This is when we were in Juarez, and I'm telling you, people got in trouble because of this happening. And because I guess we were naive, not knowing what kind of danger is there. So listen to this and see. Oops. Oh, I guess I'd have to. Let's see. Oh, here it is. See if I can.
Can get a few shots also. Well, is it?
Let me start it over.
On your phone, can get a few shots also. Well, is it? Don't worry about it.
What's happening?
I'll tell you right now, it's not good. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad either. It's just we're just right now getting some information. Right. Nothing bad's happening. We're just getting information.
From the man?
No.
This is us following a lead in Juarez. The lead.
No, está bien que grabe.
You can record us, just so you know.
Lo que estamos aquí, mire, haciendo es revisiones, ¿sí? Y dando las recomendaciones por el COVID-19, que no sea aglomeración de personas. Sí. Hay que tener cuidado, todavía. Hay que tener cuidado con ese tipo de persona que te quiere, porque puede ser una extorsión. Sí. ¿Sí? O sea, yo también traigo.
Where is the man that was?
Yo traigo pesquisas. Llegan aquí a Juárez o aquí en México. Sí, por favor. Y yo ahorita me llevo eso a mi departamento de mi comandancia. Le saco copias.
Basically, he was just saying that this guy could be like an extorter, that we need to be careful.
Que son las 9:30. Aquí en la mañana estuvimos. No, nomás ya estamos hablando de la información.
Que desafánate de este señor.
Sí, sí,
Puede
sí.
ser una extorsión.
Sí, sí, sí.
Dile a la, tradúcele.
What he's saying is that basically this guy could be an extortionist, and it's not a good place for us to be. He's like, this is a pretty dangerous situation, and just to be very, very careful.
Okay.
No hagan mucho caso a este tipo de personas. Sí.
I need to go home.
Yeah, don't listen too much, and basically, don't listen to them too much, and just be safe. Is what he's saying. That he came to us.
Gracias.
He came because right now, because of COVID, there's not supposed to be a lot of people gathering together. So that's what the stop originally was about. But now that he's here, now he's seeing everything he's telling us.
Estamos dando, ahorita los miramos como son 4 personas que están dialogando, están platicando. Nos paramos para entregarles cubrebocas y darle la atención que ustedes se merecen, pero siempre y cuando darle las recomendaciones por el COVID-19, ya que ahorita está la contingencia muy alta.
He stopped us so that, to let us know, to be precautious, to offer us masks and things of that nature. But yeah, now that he saw, he's kind of warning us.
Nosotros, Seguridad Pública, estamos para ayudarles. Ahorita me vas a entregar una pesquisa, yo le saco copias y voy a mi comandancia para radiarlos, sí, para que se dé cuenta todo Juárez, a ver si ven con las características que tienen ustedes.
He's basically asking us to give him some flyers and that they would help pass them out. Yeah, it's in the... Tenemos muchas copias, mira,
Okay.
se les puede llevar.
Gracias.
Okay. Sí, pero nosotros estamos haciendo las recomendaciones. ¿Usted trae cubrebocas, caballero?
Sí.
Sí, si no, porque yo ahí traigo para otorgarle uno.
At this point, Richard's body,
Sí. Eso fue la
according to
cuestión
the information
de que
that
nos
we
paramos.
have with the autopsies,
¿Sí
was
me
already
entiende? Ya que
found.
miramos la aglomeración de un
That,
grupito de 4 o
he
5
was
personas.
already,
Sí,
Okay.
ok.
Entendido.
Bueno,
Gracias.
bueno, ándale.
Se les
Hasta
agradece
luego,
mucho.
señora.
Gracias.
I can't reveal in the next few days. In the next few days, we'll put the dots together. Why this is so important.
So this is kind of a COVID stop, and I don't know if the man that had information for us about Richard was telling the truth or not, and he could just be, like a police officer said, an extortionist, which we're very, very aware of, and so we were taking it with a grain of salt to begin with, but we still wanted to see what he had to say because you never know. And so, are we ready to go?
Just about. I'm just getting my phone out so I can get a couple
Okay,
of
so
shots. They're talking to Sammy a little bit.
So we really just want to go home. This was an exciting day. I think more exciting than what we really want. But you saw the mountain climb that Rob took that was treacherous. So we will climb every mountain and follow every stream and go down every highway to find you, Richard. So I don't know if what the man was saying was right, but if you are in this area, and now because of the parade today, we might get more calls to our hotline or to Senor Castillo, because he also had a number on there. And this is I always said I wouldn't be in Juarez in the evening, or at nighttime, but we were invited to Senor Castillo's sister's house. She had made all kinds of food, but we never made it there because it's so late, and we got this call, and we had another witness that wanted to make a remark at the police station, and so we went there, and it's really, everything takes time. You just have to be patient and say your prayers, and everything takes time. So, but this here is not because we did anything wrong. It's just a COVID stop because there were 3 men out on the street.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Gracias. So, he's good looking, right?
Well,
Find Richard Halliday.
okay.
Please, I'm praying. Thank you. Adios. Oh, I should turn it around.
Okay, so you can watch that on the Telegram. Find Richard Halliday. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. Can you imagine all the things that we've done? It's just... And I was so clueless at that time. That there was these, Tavita Nusa and Ron Steeg and there's conflicts of interest everywhere. You don't know who to trust. Can you imagine Richard's going into the CID to make a complaint, and the very person that's supposed to be guarding him and protecting his whistleblower rights is, rolling in the hay with the very family that he's complaining about? If that's the case, I mean, can you imagine? And that is absolute motive. Because he was illegally exposed and targeted, and everything makes sense because he was targeted and he was retaliated against unjustly for months, and it was so bad, and there were even fights because of it, and it escalated into his murder. And so, very clear, all our information is coming together. It looks very clear. We have been able to get the information, and the information is more powerful than weapons, y'all. And so now we have to get more information to deny or fortify the claims that we're making. And it's going to be absolutely horrible any way you look at it, because if we're victorious, we get a chopped up son back. Remains. It's just, either way, it's cold-blooded, and we don't wish this on anybody. So, and for Juan M.O.M.S, I received a call today from his mother offering me prayers and thoughts because of her pain that she's been going through. And if you don't know that case, please read about it. R.I.P. Juan, R.I.P. And we don't want any, I think I can speak for her and I, we don't want anyone to have to go through this. And here we have, in the last 3 days, 2 suicides. Can you imagine? And remember that our CAO committed suicide. rest in peace. And I don't even know what to say about all that, because it's just such a disaster. We've got to fight on, and got to do what's right. So thank you, everyone. And please remember, if we get censored, you can go to mcguffeysonlinetutor.com. And we're on Rumble, we're on BitChute, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, so we're not going to give up. We're going to find a way, and we'll have a lot of big news coming up. So thank you, because of y'all, because of your letters. Don't forget to write your letters to the media, or really about the media, to the irs.gov. So it's eoclass@irs.gov. Be sure to write those letters, that if in our case, it was El Paso Matters, that were very biased, had an agenda, which is okay. You can have an agenda, you can be biased, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot be biased and also be tax exempt. Okay? So they are tax exempt. So please write a letter saying you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be biased and not cover very important stories like Leilani Hart's CID and FBI complaint that involves the case of Richard Halliday, the murdered soldier. You can't ignore that and have the tax exempt status. So I think that is really, really important. And also, we have M.O.M.S now coming as a unit to let Governor Abbott know that we're not happy that he's put us in dangerous places because of his appointments to DA, his appointments to Attorney General. And I don't know who the DA is supposed to be elected. I know he appointed Jaime Esparza. So, but anyway. So we'll work that out to get everything, our T's crossed, our I's dotted, and let him know, as a group of moms, mothers of missing, murdered, and maligned soldiers, how we feel about the job that he's doing. So, okay, thank you, everyone. God bless you. I hope I covered everything because there's so much to cover. And so I'm asking at the end of this, if keep sharing, and fill in all the gaps that I leave out, because it's so important to keep sharing, because it gets so much, and we need to work as a team here. So thank you, Team Find Richard Halliday, for filling in the gaps and sharing all of this information everywhere. Okay, God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Is there any? Yeah, they need to do their jobs and find out why, when, where, how, and give you answers. Absolutely. We're finding out how, when, why. Literally. How, when, why. What is fact? What is fiction? We're finding that out. And thank you so much. God bless you.